Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Real View podcast. I am your host, Allison Wiley. Joining me today, my special guest is Stacey Ross Cohen. She is CEO, President of Co-Communications, and she's an award-winning brand professional who earned her stripes on Madison Avenue and at major television networks before launching her business, Co-Communications, a New York-based PR and marketing firm. She recently debuted on the TEDx stage and is a sought-after speaker and writer on personal branding and real estate. A HuffPost blogger, she's been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, and other leading national media. She holds an MBA from Fordham and a certification in media technology and entertainment from NYU. Stacey, welcome onto the show.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you for such a great introduction.
Of course, we're so happy to have you. So excited to be talking about the world of branding, what us as realtors can do to really brand ourselves, how to do it, why it's so important. We're going to dive into all of that. And Stacey and I were chatting before we started the show, and we always appreciate when we talk to fellow marketers and people who live in this world understand the importance of it. So I'm thrilled to have you on the show today, and we're going to this afternoon. I'm excited.
Yes, I am looking forward to it.
Definitely. But before we get started in this world of branding, I would like to start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got started in the industry. I'd love to hear your career journey and what's led you to where you are today.
Absolutely. Well, I think my career journey, believe it or not, started when I was age 14.
Wow.
I am an entrepreneur at heart, and both my parents were entrepreneurs, saw both of them start businesses. So my first business I started at age 14. So again, I had a short stint in the corporate world. And interestingly enough, you mentioned major media. Prior to starting my business, I worked at CBS, living in New York City. And my mom was a real estate broker in the city. She was doing a lot of the co-op conversions in the 90s. And I never got to see her because she would work weekends. So P.S., I got my real estate sales license, something you didn't know about me.
So you're one of us.
And by the way, I'm just, besides my marketing, branding expertise, I really know real estate because I did get my real estate sales license and I worked with her on weekends. And I'm also married to a real estate attorney who does high-end real estate closings in New York City, which kind of sounds like an oxymoron because most real estate units in New York City tend to be definitely $5 million plus. And then also at Co-Communications, where we offer full service marketing and public relations. One of our verticals is real estate. We also work in education, economic development, healthcare, nonprofit, professional services, but a mainstay has definitely been real estate. We've worked with brokerages, including Coldwell Banker, Berkshire Hathaway, and also like a lot of different associations, MLSs. So we really get the plight of the real estate world and age it for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like you definitely are very familiar with our world. That's why I'm so excited to be talking to you today, because, when you can get someone who blends, these two worlds together and truly understands, there's so much of real estate that's so intricate. And I've had to learn this, through my time at Ohio Realtors. This is a very complex world we live in, and a very specific world, as realtors. And there's a lot to know and understand in this lifestyle. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more from you, to hear your expertise living kind of in these two worlds and blending them together. So Thank you for sharing a little bit more about you and what you do. And the next question I was going to have is tell us about, founding Co-Communications, the work you did there. And you kind of just explained some of that, but what made you decide to start your own business, and tell us a little bit about that process?
Oh, sure. And the one thing that I have to add, and I know you'll agree, is that it's almost as real estate agents, they have their own business, right? And I always say personal branding is for life, and brands are portable. They take their brands with them. So they may be with Douglas Elliman today, but a couple of years from now, they'll be at Compass. They're taking their brand with them. So I started my business again. I have two girls, they were young, and I was just doing a lot of freelance work. And I did freelance with one marketing agency in Connecticut, and it was actually writing an annual report for a biotech company going public. And I said to the owner of the agency, hey, could I speak to the CEO? This company is going public. Like, I need to get close to whether it be the CEO or the business owner, really to understand their essence. And he put up the red stop sign. No, Stacey, we never let our freelancers speak directly to our clients. That's when I had the epiphany of co-communications, which, if you think about it, it was the antithesis of the type of agency he created. So you have co, which Latin derivative meaning with, and what is really important in our agency is collaboration and working with, whether it be my team, different strategic partners, or clients. It's working to achieve the best possible result. And again, that requires a very collaborative approach. One thing I meant to share with you, I am actually, which is not on my bio, but you reminded me to add it. I'm a newly appointed adjunct marketing professor at Fordham University. I'm teaching branding, public relations, marketing to hospitality grad students.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I love teaching and helping people navigate this very complicated multi-channel world, because it doesn't matter what kind of business, or if you're an independent real estate agent, it's a lot of confusion. Where do I start?
Yes. And I love that. And I love that you're back at your alumni school. I think I mentioned that you did get your MBA from Fordham. So that's very full circle. And I love that for you. And yeah, it sounds like you're going to give great advice to students and really help them understand and navigate this world, right? Because think about how complex branding's got. I mean, it used to just be so, singular, and now you're dealing with a multitude of different ways to market yourself. And how do you live online? How do you live offline? And all this stuff, which we're going to get into. But I think that's really amazing. And congrats on founding your own company, being a business owner, a woman business owner, big fan.
Oh, thank you, Allison.
So let's start at the beginning. What is personal branding? And tell us a little bit about why in our world in real estate, it is so important to have that strong personal brand.
Great, great first question. And it's interesting because if I am in, like either live or a webinar session, the first question I'll always ask, okay, everybody raise their hand. Who thinks that they have a personal brand? Typically, I would say 25% of the participants say they have a personal brand. And that is not the case. We all have a personal brand. It's either positive, negative, or neutral. And I think that there's really a lot of misconception about personal branding. A lot of us think of like the Kardashians, but it's not narcissistic, which a lot of people think. So it's not about me, me, me. It is like, what is the value that you bring to the table? And with real estate agents, because I see it time and time again, they sometimes leave their value on the table and forget to bring it with them. So I tend to see their branding is a lot more transactional. And when the truth of the matter is, it's like, again, it's like, what is your story that highlights your best self. And it also answers the multi-million dollar question, right? Because real estate is very competitive. Why should someone choose you as an agent? This is critical because we all know that there are thousands upon thousands of agents within each state and sometimes even each local market. How do you stand out? And that's really what personal branding is. How do you differentiate yourself? How do you become memorable? How do you get a name for yourself? And similarly to how you and I connected through the Inman article with Ryan Serhant, again, he is a pro at standing out. And I think his theater background, having that articulation and presence really helps. But it doesn't matter. You don't have to have a TV reality show to stand out. There's so many different ways to stand out. But again, I just want to reiterate to all of the real estate agents that are listening out there, you're so much more than just a transaction.
That's so true. And I think, the importance of it is growing, especially in this post settlement world. We went through a major NAR deal. We're having to, have these upfront conversations that may not have been happening regularly before about our value, about why you should choose to work with us. Types of scenarios are happening more frequently now. And I think a huge part of that is being able to articulate your brand, what you stand for, and why the consumer should choose you over someone else. So I think, this is such a relevant conversation and something that every agent should be thinking about as they think about their business strategy and how they're planning to, grow that in the future.
Absolutely. One really important thing for real estate agents to keep in mind as they, again, build their brand is that if they're working for one of these larger brokerages, like Corcoran, etc., you need to still stay on brand with corporate guidelines. Really important. You can't just go off and do as you please. So again, but a lot of these brokerages do give and want their agents to build their own unique brands to stand out.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to think about is like, yes, you should be, carving that space out for yourself while at the same time, being respectful of what your brokerage guidelines are and making sure you're staying on top of those. And there is a way to kind of blend those two together, right? Have you seen good examples of people who are able to kind of stay in line with their brokerage and then while still creating that individuality aspect of it?
Yeah, one of the best examples I know, and it's not a celebrity like Ryan Serhant, but there's a real estate agent in New York City. Her name is Nikki Field. She's with Sotheby's. And she really stands out to me. She is, again, she has a team. She was one of the first agents that created the team concept. So she has a team. Don't quote me on this, but I think she probably has about 14 members on her team. So she has a sizable team. And she really has established herself more as a global brand. So, she co authored a real estate book on real estate and Asian investors. And so this is also in keeping with Sotheby's brand strategy. In fact, they want to be viewed as an international brand with that kind of expertise. So again, she's showcasing that, she's highlighting it, but also again, she's using her individual experience, for example, that she's co-authored books and she gets out there, she builds on that. She is quoted whenever one of the real estate trades, etc., is commenting on the Asian markets, they will go to Nikki. She's become the go-to.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great example. And I think is that something that, agents, newer agents out there should be thinking about, when they choose a brokerage is how can they align with my personal brand or with what I want to do? Like that's something they should be thinking about, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because it goes two ways. Because if there's not, I love that you said that, Allison, because if there is not a good brand fit, so I think, you have to look at the corporate mission, vision of the real estate brokerage and make sure that's aligned with your brand values. Because if it's not, you're not going to be long with that particular company. I think each brokerage has its own personality. And then there are some agents that choose to be with more boutique shops, and that's fine too. And whatever path you choose, just make sure that aligns with your values and your objectives, and will really let you flourish and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Super, super important when you think about long-term success, making sure that that's in alignment. Another thing you said too is, that expertise. And you mentioned in your example, she branded herself as this global expert, and that's what she wanted to do, and that's what she was known for. Talk to us a little bit about finding that right niche or whatever, or your right focus in your career, and how you can make that an essential part of your brand.
Again, here's the issues. There's a lot of benefits of personal branding. And, from a tangible level, it could mean, getting more clients, closing more deals. But at the end of the day, it takes work. So again, you first need to go through a discovery, which requires self-awareness, right? Because you need clarity of message, and that is something that is key. It always surprises me. I remember I went to speak to one of the brokerages just about this, building a winning personal brand. It was a large office in the city, 300 agents. I was just curious. I always do my homework, and I wanted to look at all of their bios. And I have to say, there were so few that really stood out. It's like you've really got to show your personality. You've got to show why they should choose you. And you've got to get them within the first couple of sentences within your bio. For example, you don't want to bury it. And again, I think one of the best ways to do this is to establish yourself as an expert, like Mickey did with China, right? So establish yourself as an expert in a particular area, because that is what is going to build credibility and trust. And if you think of it, we all make purchase decisions based on trust. And it's an emotional decision. And if it's important to you, for example, and for some people it is, that your agent, maybe they have a strong financial background and they worked at a bank previously, that might be really important for a CEO of a company. Or that your home may be difficult to sell. You probably want to look for someone that is a really strong negotiator. So again, you've got to find, like, what is your niche in the world, and really make sure that you are really clarifying it. Some agents choose to put that in a tagline, but what do you want to be known for? And that is the first building block.
Yeah, I love that. And you brought up trust, and this was one of my questions. What is the importance of trust in building a brand?
Well, you and I both know it is everything, because the unfortunate thing is that even when a brand does build trust, and there's tons of examples with it, you can do make one mistake and trust is eroded. So again, it's not only building trust, but maintaining that trust and making sure that you deliver on your promises. That is really key.
It's a good way to kind of train the people that you work with to know that they're going to expect this from you. That's kind of how you can help build that trust, being consistent, making sure that you're delivering on what you're saying you're going to deliver on, all super important to build up that trust and keep it going. Okay, so we figured out our niche. We made it a part of our brand of, what we're saying to our clients. What is the next step in order to build the strong brand?
just to backtrack for a second, so I look at, I think this will clarify the steps a bit. I look at personal branding. I always say personal branding in 3D, right? Three dimension. So the first step, which we just discovered, was discovery, right? So that is really like your self audit. You're figuring out what is your superpower, and you've got to crystallize what sets you apart. And again, address the $1 million question: why choose you? The second is development. You need to develop a 5-star online presence. And I'll tell you why. In one internet minute, there's 6.3 million Google searches. So someone is searching for all of us right now. So if, for example, I gave a friend of mine, a local real estate agent, to help her sell her house, even as much as she trusts me, she would still do a Google search. This is just human behavior, right? So you want to make sure you have a really strong online presence. And you also, I'm a firm believer that your network is your net worth. And I'm sure you've heard the saying. So you want to expand your network. I think we all get comfortable within our comfort zone, and our network might be, maybe we're on the board of a nonprofit, but get active in the community, join boards. Again, develop assets that are going to make you look different. So a lot of real estate agents, for example, they love direct mail postcards. And I have to tell you that everything that comes in the mail to me, 98% of the direct mail postcards from real estate agents look the same. They have sold, 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 like a listing of all their beautiful houses, and that's fine and well. And you may attract some prospective clients, but if you really, really want to, and again, this is the development stage, develop something different. It's gotta be a wow. One postcard that we developed, we were working with an individual agent. It was a postcard. She had moved up from New York City to a place in New York called Scarsdale, which is one of the most expensive zip codes in the world. And so she wanted to get all her Manhattan friends to move to Scarsdale. And so her target audience was actually young families in the city that wanted more space. She shared with us like what her friends' perceptions were about the Westchester market, and didn't have great restaurants, the schools weren't as good, so on and so forth. So we created a whole campaign. One of the series of postcards, for example, all it was a white background and had a beautiful looking piece of sushi. And I forget the exact tagline, but it was just like, Westchester has great restaurants, so just again, or there was another postcard that we did with like a lot of clutter, like I think it was a before and after picture, a lot of clutter that you imagine in a New York City apartment versus a playroom, a basement where all the toys are very organized. So again, just think a little bit differently, because you've got to be a master of first impressions, and those standard type of postcards don't necessarily prompt someone to action, and that's what you want to do. And then
Yep.
the last step is delivery. So we have discovery, development, delivery. Delivery is really activation, right? And this is where agents, consider yourself a news channel. So what you want to do is you want to use social media to extend your brands. And you also want to share expertise through speaking, getting publicity, media coverage. And if you do have a team, really important to have your team, the individual members, be brand ambassadors. And so they have to understand, like, again, the why choose you. They need to be able to share an answer, the same answer, and have consistency with that. And the delivery stage is sometimes difficult because, especially busy agents, it's hard prefer them. They'd rather be showing houses, and understandably so. But it is necessary to keep out there consistently with a similar message. And look, you can't just communications works best, and you know this better than anyone, Alice. And you can't just turn on the volume and then walk away. So you need that constant drumbeat.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a part of everything that you do, having that thread, connecting everything, every part of your business strategy, every interaction that you have with your client, so important and a great way to help build that brand and deliver on what you're putting out there. So all very true. Last bit of advice, or if you could give one takeaway for our listeners today on how to build their brand, what to avoid. What's your last bit of advice or takeaway for our agents listening today?
So, probably my biggest takeaway is to find your uniqueness, and everybody out there is unique. You want to be a one out of 100. You don't want to be in a pack of 99. And then, if I were to say something just in terms to avoid, I feel that a lot of agents that I deal with, they kind of step over what I call the pot of gold, right? Because they'll say, yeah, how do I get more clients and close more deals? And I always ask them, well, before we look at getting new, how are you communicating with your existing clients that are in your network? Because that network is truly your pot of gold. Are you paying attention to them? Because you want that top of mind awareness with your existing network. And those are the people, if they're happy with the work that you did in, let's say, selling their home, they can, again, be great brand ambassadors for you.
So true. And it's probably a lot easier to keep than to go get new, right? I mean, if you're investing that into people who already know who you are, have already worked with you, have already had that good experience, keeping that relationship's probably way more manageable than trying to go out and get new.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Stacey, I want to thank you so much for joining me, for sharing so much of your insights and insider knowledge into your world and this world of branding and how us agents can do it really well and take us to the next level. So I want to thank you again for coming on, joining me today. This has been really great.
And thank you, Allison. I've enjoyed every minute, and I love the work that Ohio Realtors is doing, and I'd be delighted to come back again.
Yes, absolutely. We will have to get you back with us again soon. This has been so wonderful. To all of our listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we'll be back with you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.